Only quality people. That's who I know is in this right now. Let's get tying another quick tie. This one is from episode 15 of season 4. My name is Tim Hepworth, and I'm here from Fly Fishing Board Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. And we are here to bring you a quick tie for probably one of my favorite flies of all time. And you gotta have a lot of these in your box. The Chubby Chernobyl. All right, classic fly. We're gonna get after this one. Let's go into my season 4 kit, and I'm gonna grab out what is my season 4 episode 15. In the back there you see the foam. That's the one we're going to be tying here. Okay, if you don't already have one of these kits, you can go to our website at www.flyfishingboardver.com/TNLS4 and pick one up today. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this video because it is important to us that we know you're here. And hit the little bell, click on it, and it'll let us know, or let you know every time we put out a new video. Okay, let's head over the vise and we'll get started. So I'm going to be tying tonight with some UTC 70, okay, in this brown color. Doesn't really matter too much of the thread because your thread's not going to get seen a lot. I would not use something super small, as you'll probably cut through your foam, but I don't mind this one. The 70 or a 140 from UTC is pretty good. Let's go ahead, start our thread just behind the eye, lay a bit of a thread base down. I'm going to come in here and trim out that. Now I like to go right from the start. I like to just put on a really nice consistent thread base down the hook shank. This really just helps some of those materials bind the way you want them to. Gives it something different than just a slippery hook shank to go up and down. Okay, so I'm going to bring my thread about back to the point of the hook here. First material we're going to go ahead and put in is some, here we got some flash here, some crystal flash. We're going to put it in at the back. So this is a really long strand. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to double it over a couple of times and make a lot smaller pieces. Whoop. Correct that there. So I'm just going to trim it a couple times like so. Trim, fold in half again, trim again. We're just going to use one big piece here and create a bunch of little pieces, and we'll tie it in that way. Now that I've got about 4 long strands, I'll tie this in. I am going to just re-grab my thread here because I lost it. Restart it on here. That happens often, especially down around that hook point. It's easy to get it snagged and break it off. So once we got that out of the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to lay this down right here. It's going to be super long out the back, and that's all right. I'm just going to lay some thread wraps down right on top of the hook shank. I'm going to grab this and fold it over, match up those two together like so, and just start working my thread rearward all the way till I get kind of right on top of that hook bend, and that's where I'll leave it. Go ahead and straighten out that hook just a little bit. Still tipping up on me. Very particular about how this looks. No, it's still pointed up. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by trimming this off. So I like to leave this roughly a hook gap in length behind the fly, maybe a little longer. Just kind of use your judgment, somewhere in there. We're going to have foam that's going to hang out over top of that as well. So before we get to tying in any foam, what we're going to do is I want you to take just a little bit of your dubbing. So we're just using some diamond dub or sparkle dub for this fly. This is just kind of like in a cinnamon orangish color. I'm just going to take a little piece of it, not very much. I'm just going to get this little dubbing noodle onto my thread. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay just a little bit down at the very back on top of that crystal flash. Once I do that, I'm going to be to my first tying point for my foam. Now, we gave you just a piece of foam like this. I want you to trim it down so it's about the width of the hook gap. Okay, so this is still just a touch wide. I'm going to trim it down just a little bit more, not too much. Once we get this trimmed down, then we'll just kind of adjust the length as we go. But the width is an important thing to get right before you start. Okay, so I come in here, perfect, hook gap and width. Now, when I look at the overall length, I want it to hang off somewhere back to about the back of that flash, and then a little bit off the front. So this is just a very general cut that I'm going to start with. Now, on my Chernobyls, I do like to cut just a little wedge into the back. So I'm going to come in here like so. Cut just a little bit, not to a super pointed arrow, but just a little triangle kind of there at the back end. Now, I'm going to start by laying this down so that it hangs out almost to the back of the crystal flash. Not quite to the back, but pretty close to it. Okay, I'm going to hold that right on top. I'm going to take one thread wrap here, 2 thread wraps, and I'm going to pinch the foam down on top of the hook, and I'm going to take some more thread wraps, making sure that it's not going to go anywhere. Kind of one of the problems of this pattern is it does at times the foam wants to roll around on top of the hook shank, so that's why I find putting down a nice layer of thread as well as some dubbing can kind of aid in that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some legs. So you're going to go into your kit, just like I'm going to do here, if I can find my bag, and we need to grab some rubber legs. So one moment here. I'm going to grab some out of mine. The color of the legs doesn't really matter, but you can kind of match it to the color of the stonefly that you're tying. So sometimes you want to use a little bit darker ones or a little bit bigger ones, but you're kind of pretty generally good if you stick with something that's not super dark. It's kind of in that tan barred color range. Okay, so I'm going to go into my kit here and just grab out my first set of rubber legs. Okay, so just like this, just a barred rubber leg. I'm going to fold this guy over because it's really long. I'm not going to need to use the whole thing all at once. So I just doubled over that barred leg. I'm going to trim it. Now what I'm going to use half of it on one side. So I'm going to take both pieces together, match up their tips. I'm actually going to lay these right on top, kind of evenly spaced half and half. If I can hold on to these things. Lay them right on top, put a couple thread wraps down over top of them. And then we can tie them in together, just a couple thread wraps, let the bobbin hang. And then we can take and pull these over to the sides and adjust where we want them. And I broke that one here, 1 second here. Can slide that one forward a bit, pull it over to that side, put another thread wrap through just to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And then we're able to work with them a bit, kind of move them around to where we want them. We are going to put a little bit more dubbing in between them, so that I'll splay them out a little bit here in a moment. So the last thing we're going to do here in this back end before we put some dubbing in is we're going to grab, this is just you can use Antron, Zelon, you can use Parapost, whatever it is you like. They even make some that's called Afterglow, which is like a glow-in-the-dark version. I'm just going to lay this kind of in half over top of here. I'm going to put my first wrap right through the middle of it. I'm going to kind of center it, make sure it's centered. And all I'm going to do is a couple wraps like that, making sure I don't mess up the legs here. And then I'm going to fold this guy back over, but to make sure that it makes it go rearward, how you do this is you fold it over and you create a little bit of a bubble. See how I push that back? Now I'm going to take my thread wrap over top of that bubble, and that's going to cause it to pinch down and to force it rearward. Okay? That gives us our wing that we know is going to point back and go where we want it to go. Now I'm just going to go grab just another little piece of dubbing. I'm going to dub my thread, make another little dubbing noodle. And this time, I'm just going to use this to splay the legs on this fly so they're not stuck together. And we're going to go over top of that Parapost wing and in between those legs. Just going to lay down a few wraps. So it's going to look something like that. Splays those legs out for you. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll use up the rest of this. I'll just pull up my foam, and I'm going to advance this forward. We're going to lay a nice amount of dubbing. I'm going to make another noodle. This one can be a little bit more liberal because we want this to be the underbody of our fly. So we're going to lay quite a bit more down and just make a nice... Doesn't have to be super bulky. Some people like them super thin. Some people do like them really bulky. I kind of land somewhere in the middle. I do like to have that extra flash in the underbody. So I'm just going to work my way forward. Making sure I get a nice even underbody. That's kind of the most important part of this. Okay, I'm going to leave this just behind the eye with a little bit of space. Now I'm going to come fold my foam forward. I'm going to take another thread wrap on the foam. Okay, did just like before, a couple, pull tight so it holds it where it is. So what we're looking at so far, guys, is this. We got our splayed legs, got our underbody built. Okay. Now we're going to repeat what we did in the back end. We're going to go legs, then we're going to go antron, and then we're going to finish with a little bit of dubbing, and we'll wrap up the fly right there. Okay. So I'm going to start by going in, grabbing the other set of legs that I probably dropped somewhere here. They got to be in here somewhere. What did I do with them now? Of course. Must have dropped them on the floor. That is okay. It never goes super smooth every single time. So what we're going to do is we're just going to improvise a bit here. And grab another set of legs. And we are going to tie them in. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing as last time. You can put them in together or separate. I'll put these one ends together because we did last time. Okay. Kind of half and half. And then I can pull them to each side. And then we're going to really kind of make those more secured and even once we come to the end. Now you can see that these are different legs. And I would give you some BS answer as to why it's more important to have different legs at the front of the fly, when in fact it is just my own fault and I dropped the other set on the floor and I can't find them. Next thing we're going to do here, guys, we're going to go to our yarn again. Okay, so this time what I want to do is make sure that this extends all the way back on the back side to the back of the fly. As long as it does that, I don't care about the front, because I'm going to fold it over and we're going to kind of create the same thing we did in the back. So I'm going to take 1, 2, kind of straighten out that foam, make that little bubble that I did last time over top of it. Now that's going to force that to go rearward. Take a couple more securing wraps. Okay. Now we're going to make another little dubbing noodle, not a super big one. Grab another pinch of your dubbing. Going to get this done on our thread here, and this is just going to be a few wraps to splay the legs and to finish this off. So I'm going to go through once or twice. We'll go 3 times. Then I'm going to fold up that foam and finish just in front of it with a little bit more dubbing. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and whip finish. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of half hitches just because I like working with it. So my half hitch is just lay my tool or my hollow thing, whatever it is. 1 wrap, 2 wraps, put it over the eye of the hook, pull your thread off. It's a really good knot. We'll do it a couple times. You could use some resin if you like. It's really up to you. If you do a couple of those, it's not going to go anywhere. We're going to trim that off right there. Now, I want to lay this foam down, and I'm just going to leave myself a little bit of room out in front. Nothing too crazy, too long. Something like that. I don't round off those corners at all. I like my chubbies to kind of look just like that. The last thing here to trim is we're going to pull, not the last thing, but one of the last things. We're going to pull both of these rearward like so. And I'm going to run my scissors kind of right up the back of the foam. I add a little bit of length to it, but not too much. And I trim. Okay. Now, one little secret that was taught to me, sometimes these kind of don't look like they're melding together. You can tell that it's 2 pieces. Like, why aren't they going together? So something you can do is you can grab a piece of Velcro or a comb and just comb them in together a little bit. And if you do that, even with a comb or a brush, it kind of melds them, makes them look like they're meant to be together, and you're left with something a little bit more like that. Trim off the tags. Now all we got to do is adjust the length of our legs. So I'm going to come in here and kind of match these guys up. And the length of the leg is 100% your decision. I like a little bit longer legs than my chubbies. I think it just makes them look super buggy to have long legs hanging out there on the water. Okay. Just like that. That is our Chubby Chernobyl, guys.
Certified
Please trust me on this one. Put some of these in your box. Tie them in a variety of colors. This is one of my favorite. Cinnamon, kind of on that peach foam. But there's lots of different color combinations you can go with. And looks pretty stonefly buggy to me. All right, everybody. That is from episode 15 of season 4. Again, my name is Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bober Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. Please like and subscribe this video. Let us know that you're here. And we'll get back to doing some more quick ties next week. Until then, see ya.